Carl Za. I'm the host of the Silk and Steel podcast. Welcome to the second episode of my Romance of Three Kingdoms Retold series. Last time, I have talked about. Okay, we'll have to cut this out later. Oh, hey, somebody already joined. Hi, how are you? I'm just getting started. I'm going to start from beginning. So last time I did the Romance of Three Kingdoms. I'm looking at the comment. I keep on getting distracted. So I am in Bali. This is my courtyard. I'm literally in my dog shed. I kick my dogs out so I can have the dog shed all to myself. It is really hot and humid in Bali, so you might see me sweating bullets. Hello there. I'm just waiting for everyone to get situated. Last time, on my very first episode of the Romance of Three Kingdoms Retold, I did a brief introduction of the Chinese history from the prehistorical period all the way to the Han Dynasty. And this time I decided that I'm going to start diving into the narrative part of the Romance of Three Kingdoms. So I did a little bit of research about the period leading up to the Romance of Three Kingdoms. And it's so fascinating that I decided I'm going to include that in my talk because to understand what has gone before will really help you understand how Romance of Three Kingdoms all come about. We have enough audience, and so I'm going to start. The year is 121 AD. The woman who had ruled the Han Empire for the last 15 years finally died. Emperor An could barely contain his joy. For 15 years, the woman who is not his mother had been ruling in his name. Sorry, I just my notes screwed up a little bit, so I'm gonna start from the beginning. I apologize. In my actual podcast, I'm gonna edit this out, but this is a live stream, so you get to see everything. Oh, hello, Jennifer. Okay, start from beginning. The year is 121 AD. Empress Dowager Deng, the woman who had ruled the Han Empire for the last 15 years, finally died. Emperor An could barely contain his joy. Ever since he had been chosen by Empress Dowager Deng to sit on the dragon throne at age of 13, this woman who is not his mother had been ruling in his name. Empress Dowager Deng only chose him because her first choice, her husband's youngest child, an infant, only lasted 7 months on the throne before dying from illness. Anne's own father had been the crown prince to Anne's grandfather, the emperor, but didn't have the fortune to be born to the empress. Anne's grandfather, the emperor, had many wives, as befitting the ruler of all under heaven. There is, however, only one empress, and Empress Do was barren. She didn't care for some other woman's son to become the next emperor. Grandpa Emperor has another son by another woman. Empress Do had the unfortunate woman poisoned and adopted the son as her own. Next, he plotted to remove An's father from the position of crown prince to be replaced by her own adopted son, Anne's uncle. Anne's grandma, an imperial concubine to Grandpa Emperor, was sick and sent a letter asking her family to send her ingredients of traditional Chinese medicine. Empress Dowager Dou sees the letter and claims this is an ingredient for the voodoo ritual Anne's grandma is engaged in to cast a curse on the imperial court and on herself. This is a very serious accusation. And Empress Dou had Anne's grandma and her sister, another concubine of the emperor grandpa, imprisoned. Empress made sure to put her own man, the palace eunuch Cai Lun, who is famous for improving the paper making techniques, in charge of investing Anne's grandma's case. Cai Lun knows who holds the key to his future. He ruled that Anne's grandma is indeed guilty and sent her and her sisters to the torture chamber. Anne's grandma couldn't stand the humiliation of being tortured, and she killed herself in her cell. Anne's father was stripped of his crown prince title and demoted to prince of common rank, and sent away from the capital and under the strict order to not return unless explicitly summoned on the pain of death. Empress Dou's adopted son, Anne's uncle, then became the new crown prince. Anne's grandpa died at the age of 33, leaving the dragon throne to Anne's 9-year-old uncle. Empress Dou became Empress Dowager Dou and ruled in his name. But that was a long time ago. Anne's father already accepted his fate and served Anne's uncle, the late emperor, faithfully. His father and uncle emperor also had their revenge on the Empress Dowager Dou. His aunt's uncle, while still a 13-year-old teenager emperor, launched a palace coup with the help of eunuchs. He ordered Empress Dowager Dou's brother, commanders of imperial army, to immediately come back to the capital to serve as regent of the realm. Now the Empress Dowager Dou's brothers had been commanding a campaign in far north Mongolia against the nomadic Eunuch and had scored a great victory. They suspected nothing when they received the imperial decree, as they expected to be elevated further in court and given greater responsibilities. They came back to the capital city, and it was already late. They decided to retire before meeting the emperor tomorrow. Then, under the cover of darkness, the eunuchs led the imperial guard to lock down the capital and close all the gates. They arrested the Deng family in their sleep. Empress Dowager Dou's entire family was arrested and then sent back to their fiefdom, where they were ordered to commit ritual suicide. This created a precedent for court eunuchs to play oversized role in the Han court politics. Uncle Emperor created his own internal cabinet to be staffed exclusively by palace eunuchs to divert the power from powerful scholar official families like that of Empress Dowager Dou. He thought he learned a lesson. Anne's uncle turned out to be a wise and able emperor and brought in a new age of prosperity to all under heaven. Yet, uncle's Empress Deng, turned out to be even more formidable. Deng bet her time. She climbed to the position of empress from the rank of royal concubine. Concubine Deng had always known about the virtue of forbearance and biding her time. When she was only 5, her grandma, wife of then prime minister, personally cut her hair because she is a favorite. But grandma was old and couldn't see very well, and accidentally poked her forehead and drew blood. But she made no sound and let grandma continue to cut her hair. Everyone was stunned and asked her why she didn't scream. She replied, "Yes, it hurts, but grandma cut my hair because of her love for me, and I don't want to hurt her feelings." Then started to read history books when she was 6, and by 12 had already mastered Confucian classics. When she studied with her brother at home with private tutors, she's always asking questions. Her mom told her, "You don't learn women folks' work, but put all your time in books. What do you expect? Do you want to be a scholar official?" And as we all know, scholar officials can only be men in the Han Dynasty court. She took her mom's advice and picked up embroidery during the day and waited until night when nobody is watching to continue to read her books. Then grew up tall and beautiful, and as a girl from a high-born family of scholar officials, was selected to enter the imperial harem at age 16 as the concubine to the emperor, An's uncle. She quickly won Uncle Emperor over with her beauty and her wits. As Uncle Emperor's favorite concubine, she showed nothing but utmost humility to her husband's first empress. She dared not to stand straight in her presence or speak before the empress had spoken. She was Uncle Emperor's favorite concubine. So when concubine Deng was sick, Uncle Emperor granted special permission to allow her mom and brothers to visit her in the palace, with no limitation on the length of their stay. But Deng told the emperor, "There's a reason the imperial palace is named Forbidden City. If your majesty allow outsiders to linger long within these forbidden grounds, that will only allow people to gossip that I am pushing the limit of emperor's favor." Uncle's empress was so impressed with her self-effacing ways and her kindness toward other members of his harem that he started to entertain thoughts of replacing his own empress with her. Empress was incensed at the favor Uncle Emperor bestowed upon concubine Deng. She secretly hired shaman to cast voodoo spells on Deng. Once Uncle Emperor was very sick, and the empress made it known if she ever come to power, she will wipe out Deng's entire family. Yet Uncle Emperor recovered, as the empress' plot to cast spell on concubine Deng was uncovered. Enraged, the emperor demoted his empress and sent her to live alone in the deserted corner of the palace to live out the rest of her life. Concubine Deng asked for mercy for the former empress, which just further convinced emperor of her kindness. By age 21, Deng had become the empress of the realm. But she maintained her humble appearance in front of her husband, the emperor. She forbidden expensive gift to be sent to the harem. Whenever her husband, the emperor, wants to promote her family members to court positions, she begged him to reconsider and not to give out titles just because they're family. Her own brother only attained the title of a middle-ranking officer in the imperial army during her husband's reign. Just 3 years later, her husband, the emperor, died at age of 27. At age 24, Empress Deng became Empress Dowager Deng and the ruler of the empire. Her late husband had many children, but Deng had none. She decided against making her husband's eldest son the new emperor, as is the custom, because he's too sickly, she decided. No, it has to be the youngest son of her late husband, who is barely 100 days old. With the infant emperor on the dragon throne, it falls upon the Empress Dowager herself to rule in his name. Alas, this arrangement didn't last. The infant emperor didn't even last till his first birthday. 7 months later, the baby died from illness. Empress Dowager Deng decided the rest of her husband's son just will not do. Then she chose Anne. Because Anne's father, the former crown prince, had been wrongfully passed over for succession. But most importantly, Anne's father is near death and had very little influence in court. Anne himself is only 13. So 24-year-old Empress Dowager Deng must rule in his name until he comes of age. Empress Dowager Deng applied her skills in handling harem politics to court politics. She cut spending and cut taxes, making her the ideal ruler for the American libertarian and paleoconservatives. But her spending cuts did not extend to military and making war, which would make her the bipartisan favorite in today's U.S. 11 years of her 15-year rule was spent on fighting the Chong people in the northwestern frontier. The nomadic Chong tribal confederation on the edge of Tibetan Plateau in what is today's Qinghai province had grown powerful and became #1 military threat to the Han Empire. The Chong managed to cut off the Silk Road running through the Kakashi corridor, connecting the heartland of Han Empire to its tributary states in the Tarim basins in what is today's Xinjiang. The Chong eventually even threatened Chang'an, the capital of former Han dynasty, on several occasions. Empress Dowager promoted her brother, who was only a middle-ranking officer during her husband's reign, to be the commander of the imperial army to crush the Chong rebellion. Now, this is the time perhaps I should show a map so you guys can visually see what I'm talking about. I'm going to reverse the camera so you can see the map on my laptop. This is a map of the Eastern Han Dynasty in 97 AD. In other words, during the reign of An's uncle, or the husband of the Empress Deng. The Han Empire stretched from the Korean Peninsula from the east all the way to Kashgar to the west, and from the Gobi Desert in the north to the central highlands of Vietnam in the south. However, by the time the Empress Dowager Deng has took power, by year 107, this is what the Han Empire looked like. The Chong rebellion has cut off the Han Empire from its access to further west. And the Chong, let me zoom in so you can see. And the Chong is this yellow area right here. They are a nomadic people living on the edge of the Tibetan Plateau. And they threatened the essential Silk Road connection the Han Empire had to the further west. And in fact, that caused the Han to lose all the vassal states further west in today's Xinjiang in the Tarim Basin. And the war against Chang went on for decades. And as you can see, there's the orange color is a different Chang tribe. So there's a Chang tribe even to the north, and the 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 Han capital of Chang'an is right here. So there was a couple occasions that Chang army vanguard already made it to the outskirts of Chang'an. Okay, now let's go back to our story. The Han Empire ran out of money funding the war. That the Empress Dowager Deng resorted to auction off official positions in the imperial bureaucracy to the highest bidder. This would set up a bad precedence, whereas the purge internet issues, I'm reconnecting. Hi guys, I'm back. Let me know if you can see my stream right now. So I know the internet connection have been restored. I live in Bali, so the internet connection is not all reliable. Okay, great, we're back. So the Han Empire is running out of money to funding the war. And as a last resort, the Empress Dowager has turned to selling titles, official titles, to the highest bidder. Now the people who purchases these titles to become official in the imperial bureaucracy, they expect to recover their investment by squeezing people in their jurisdiction. The problem of official corruption thus exploded, and the Chang raid persisted all the way to the Three Kingdoms era. In fact, many famous figures in the Three Kingdoms would either make their name fighting in the Chang Wars or are themselves Chang. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Empress Dowager Deng also greatly expanded the role of eunuchs in the imperial government from her husband's era. She relied on eunuchs to check on the power of other great scholar official families who had opposed her rule and her family. We will see the consequence of this later. She promoted her Deng family members to all the important positions in the imperial government, in sharp contrast to during her husband's reign when she begged her husband not to promote her family members. But she's credited with instilling strict discipline among Deng family members serving the imperial bureaucracy. Her brother's son once had been exposed for accepting bribes. Her brother ordered his wife and son shaved bald to display their shame in public. She also promoted many men of talents into the rank of the government. She's made one talented young eunuch, one named Cao Teng, to accompany the young crown prince of Emperor An to. Cao Teng adopted a son from his own Cao clan, who would inherit his own titles. And this adopted son would have another. My wife keep on calling me. Despite her failing in her 15 years of ruling the vast Han Empire, the Empress Dowager Deng ushered in a new golden era. She reduced the tax burdens and corvée labor upon common people. When the infant emperor died, she canceled the plans, as is customary, to build a huge tomb complex for the dead emperor. Instead, she had the baby buried in secret location. She did so well, in fact, that she sees no reason to give up. Her cousin Deng suggested perhaps she should not staff the imperial bureaucracy full of their kinsmen. She ignored him. Deng got scared and decided to stay home and claim illness. Now, scholar officials during Han Dynasty are expected to show up at the court every morning at appointed time to discuss the issue of the day with the ruler. Then Kang feigned illness so he could lay low and not be in the sight of Empress Dowager Deng, who he feared he had crossed. The Empress Dowager was not satisfied that Deng Kang might be shirking work, so she sent her palace maid to check up on him. This maid just happened to be, she used to be a maid in Deng Kang's household. Yet because now she's on presenting official palace business, she styled herself Lady So-and-so. Deng Kang was incensed. How dare you, my former maid, to talk to me in this manner, all high and mighty? Offended, the maid went back to the Empress Dowager Deng and reported that Deng Kang is faking illness and have insulted the indignity of the palace. Enraged, the Empress Dowager stripped Deng Kang of his rank and title and sent him packing, and officially kicked him out of the Deng clan. Teenagers grew up quickly, and Emperor An soon became a full-fledged adult. Yet Empress Dowager Deng shows no sign of handing him power. By this time, An is already 27. Yet, the Empress Dowager still holds all the power. And the court official Deng petitioned the Empress Dowager in court to return power to the emperor. And the Empress Dowager flew into a rage. She ordered him arrested on the spot, put into a bag, and beaten to death in full view of everyone in court. Luckily for Du, the one receiving the order to execute him is his friend. He told the executioner not to put in forced strength while beating Du Kang to a pulp, and directly dump his body outside the capital city after the beating. Empress Dowager sent people to check to make sure Du Kang is instead dead. So Du Kang played dead for 3 days until maggots start crawling out of his eyes. And finally, Du Kang got away with his life and worked as a waiter for 15 years in a remote mountainside inn until after Empress Dowager's death. One reason Empress Dowager Deng trusted eunuchs more than court officials is that Empress Dowager Deng trusted eunuchs more than court officials with powerful family background and give more government position to eunuchs is because scholar official families always plotting for her overthrow. There was a conspiracy to launch a coup against her and her brother and kill all the eunuchs officials loyal to her. But she became aware of the plot and crushed the coup attempt. But eventually, illness caught up to Empress Dowager Deng, and she finally passed away at age of 40. Empress Dowager Deng's death freed Emperor An from living as a puppet. And An already has a clique of eunuchs loyal to him, and with their help, An immediately launched a purge of Empress Dowager Deng's family. Deng brothers were accused of plotting to launch a coup against the emperor. They were rounded up and executed. An also took revenge, finally, for his grandma. Cai Lun, the eunuch who, as you recall, not only improved the technique of paper making, but also helped to prosecute An's grandma on charge of casting voodoo dolls in court, now is himself thrown in jail. And unable to face the torture, he committed suicide by drinking poison. Eunuch as a political force, though, grew even more powerful under Emperor An, as Emperor An lavished ranks and titles on those who helped him purge Empress Dowager Deng's family. But An apparently learned nothing from his grandpa's mistakes. His own Empress Yan already poisoned the crown prince's mother. one of Anne's concubines. And the Empress Yan did not wish to see the crown prince succeed on as the next emperor. The crown prince was made into crown prince during the Empress Dowager Deng's time. So now with the Empress Dowager Deng gone, the crown prince has lost his backer. So Anne stripped his son the crown prince title. But Anne did not enjoy to rule in his own name for long. Merely 4 years had passed since the passing of Empress Dowager Deng. Anne died suddenly while touring the country. Anne's Empress Yan did not have a son of her own. So she made a child prince, the new emperor. And because the new emperor is a child, of course, Empress Yan will preside over the court as the Empress Dowager Yan. Alas, the child died within 200 days. A group of eunuchs then launched a coup that killed Empress Yan's brothers and Emperor Anne's chief eunuch, and helped to set up former crown prince as a new emperor. The crown prince, and now the emperor, crown prince, and now the new emperor's chief confidant is the eunuch Cao Ten, who, as you remember, Cao Ten was appointed by the former Empress Dowager Deng to accompany the former crown prince to study. And now the crown prince have become the emperor, and his buddy and confidant Cao Ten now became one of the most powerful figures in court. Cao Ten, the idea of giving important power to eunuchs is that eunuchs usually came from humble family background, and they do not have backing of a powerful family in court. And so they rely exclusively upon their patron, whether it's the emperor or the Empress Dowager. The idea is that when the eunuch die because they cannot have family, their power ends with them. They do not get to pass down and entrench their power in a clan. But however, Cao Ten is so powerful that he decided he wants to pass down his legacy. So Cao Ten adopted a son from within his own clan. He adopted son Cao Song, and then he granted Cao Song with ranks and titles, even though Cao Song never done anything remarkable. But there is one thing that Cao Song had done that would change the course of history. Cao Song fathered a child by the name of Cao Cao. Okay, so this is at 30-minute mark of my Romance of Three Kingdoms Retold, episode 1. I introduced the character of Cao Cao's adoptive grandfather, Cao Ten. And I, when I was doing research, I found this background history so fascinating. So I decided to include in my podcast because what you would see in this story is there's a recurring pattern in the Han Dynasty court. There's a struggle for power is between the family of the Empress Dowager and the faction of eunuchs that backed by the emperor, and because the Han Dynasty, Eastern Han Dynasty, had this weird phenomena where the emperors tend to die very young, and so you end up with the Empress gaining an enormous amount of power because they then decide who is going to be the next emperor, and they all choose the youngest possible member of the royal household to be the emperor, so they can themselves rule in their name. and and this and but by the time the emperor grows up, the power struggle intensifies. Then the next crop of eunuchs, wishing to gain fame and fortune for themselves, help the emperor to overthrow the Empress Dowager's family, and this cycle repeats until the time was Romance of Three Kingdoms, and this is gonna lead up to our next episode. I thought it would be nice to really flesh it out in a narrative form and to introduce a very important character of Cao Ten, because Cao Ten is a Cao Ten is he is a man who single-handedly propelled the Cao family to the top, and made it possible for the Cao's rise later. So this is a time where I like to open up for question and answers. I see a bunch of you is already having a discussion in the background. I didn't, I didn't want to break my flow. So I was I just continue on with my reading from my script, but you know at this point, if you have any questions, feel free to field them. But please make them relevant to the podcast. I'm not going to answer questions about who I voted for the U.S. president. This is a podcast about freaking Romance of Three Kingdoms. So let's stay relevant to the topic. If you have any questions about the Romance of Three Kingdoms, this is your chance to ask now, and we can have an open discussion. Anyone? No questions? That's it. Did I put everybody to sleep, or is this everyone is so mesmerized by my storytelling? Why they favor eunuchs so highly? So I mentioned this. Yes, eunuchs are literally eunuchs. They cut their balls off. As I mentioned in the first episode, and also a little bit here, is because eunuchs are usually poor boys from poor families. They have no other option in life but to be sent into the palace to have their balls chopped off. And so yes, the eunuchs can be entrusted with the imperial harem because they're not going to impregnate any imperial concubine and corrupt the imperial lineage. But on the other hand, eunuchs are the ones that emperors grew up with since childhood. They're his friends, his confidant. And he also can trust the eunuchs because the eunuchs do not have outsource of power. They're not from powerful families. They're not like those scholar officials who staff the imperial bureaucracy, right? So they, and no emperor is in danger of being replaced by a eunuch, right? Because eunuch, what's the point of taking the power for himself? So in this way, the emperors and the empresses, they're putting a lot of trust in the eunuchs. These are the people, they use to run errands, and so eventually they incorporate eunuchs as part of the imperial bureaucracy, and even set up kind of a parallel government because originally the imperial bureaucracy is supposed to be staffed by scholar officials from all these great noble families, but these great noble families actually present a threat to the imperial power, and then there's the struggle between the important noble family who managed to have their daughter rise to the rank of empress, right? That normally elevates the empress' entire family, who then controls the court, right, to the exclusion of everyone else. but that has a limited expiration date because that everything depending on the Empress Dowager herself holding on to the power. And if she dies or if she gets overthrown by a coup that's headed by eunuchs loyal to the emperor, then it's game over, right? The whole family gets wiped out, the whole clan gets eliminated from the power, and it's a very high stake game. And because it's this special dynamic that's almost unique to the Eastern Han Dynasty. The emperor dies young, leaves his young widow empress in charge, and then the empress set up a very infant or a baby as the next emperor, then rule in his name, and until the time when the emperor grows up to challenge her power, and then the emperor rely on the next crop of eunuchs to overthrow the empress, because by that time the entire imperial court had been staffed with the empress dowager's brothers and cousins, right? So the emperor cannot rely on the court officials. He has to rely on the eunuchs, who are his close personal attendants, confidant, and friends. And these eunuchs, they have hold official titles, and some of them are, as you can see in the story, some of them hold the titles of ranks of generals in the imperial guard. They control the imperial guard, so they can do stuff like pulling a coup, where they lead the imperial guard to arrest the empress dowager's brother's family, and doing things like that. So eunuchs became more and more powerful, and more entrenched in the empire. And yes, as someone mentioned too, eunuchs have their own ranks because everything is a bureaucracy, right? Just like even Catholic Church, you have a different level of priests and bishop. Eunuchs, that they have their own different rankings, and within the palace, eunuchs, they have their own different positions. So the higher rank eunuchs, the lower rank eunuchs are the poor boys who just had their balls chopped off. They might get assigned to take out the shit, right? Literally take out the night soil. And whereas as a higher ranking eunuchs, they might be in the emperor's or empress cabinet. They serve as secretary. They serve as important officials. They could be generals leading the imperial guard. They could be in charge of certain imperial department. They can be in charge of HR. So that's why a lot of sometimes even powerful family have to bribe those eunuchs in power in order to get a official position, because the eunuchs, they're in charge of HR. They decide who gets which titles in the imperial bureaucracy. So this is how eunuchs became powerful. And then, as you can see, the paradigm start to shift a little bit, because the eunuchs are not, yes, Zheng He is a eunuch, not used to be. Once you're a eunuch, you're a eunuch. And the problem with the eunuchs, or their supposedly advantage, is eunuchs do not pass down their position of power to their families, right? They do not build entrenched family clan interests. But you kind of see the paradigm breaks down a little bit in case of Cao Teng, right? Cao Teng was so powerful because he was a friend with a crown prince who grew up with him. He became so powerful that he decided, you know what, I am gonna have a legacy. I may not have a child biologically, but I'm gonna adopt, and I'm gonna adopt a child from within my own family, from my cousins, and call him my own son, and to my own son I will heap on ranks and titles upon him until he become very powerful, right? And his son is not a eunuch, so he can go on to father children, and it just so happened that Cao Teng's adopted son, Father Cao Cao, who will shape the whole history of the three kingdoms. Yes, eunuchs function as the emperor's private secretary. That's a good way to put it. Any other questions? Yes, not very different with Julius Caesar with Augustus. Exactly. Except except Cao Teng's son is not as famous as Augustus, you know. Um, as far as I know, Cao Teng's adopted son Cao Song hasn't really done anything in his life. He was got he was not born with a silver spoon but in his mouth, but he was adopted with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was given everything, right? He was given the ranks, titles, promoted to the highest position just because his dad is the most powerful eunuch in court. And but he was able to pass down that his rank and power and prestige to his own son, and that's Cao Cao, right? And that's going to have consequences later. I guess Chong rebellion is very important because the Chong actually became the most important threat during the Han Dynasty. So for the longest time, I'm gonna try to bring out the map. I have found this a very good Chinese map series. I'm gonna put out the map. I'm gonna reverse, and you can see it again. I'm gonna reverse. So this is a very nice map. So for the longest time, the Han Dynasty primary threat was from the north, from the Xiongnu. But when our story began, the brother of the Empress Dowager Do actually led an expedition into northern Mongolia where they broke the power of Xiongnu, right? But then that's a green area right here. So, but what happened was that General Do, upon his return to the capital, he got purged, right? He got purged, but the power of Xiongnu in the north was also broken. And after that, it's the Chang people from the northwest, from this part of the world, and then start to become the big security threat to the Han Empire. As you can see, Chang they set very close to this narrow corridor that connects the Han Empire to its further west. And when the Chang tribal confederation became powerful, they were able to cut off this link. And this is a map of 107, right? 107 is 1 year after the Empress Dowager Deng had assumed power from her from her husband. And by that time, the Chang is already the Chang rebellion is already everywhere, and this war was fought from this time from 11 from 107. I mean, it began before. It began in like 88, 87. By this time, this is already the second Chang War the Han Dynasty have to fought. But eventually, the Chang War lasted till the Three Kingdoms era, and there are actually many characters in the Three Kingdoms. They either fought in the Chang War or they are themselves from the Chang. So, but we will cover that later when we get there. Anyway, any other questions? Any other questions I would like to cover? Well, thank you. And I'm gonna make an audio only. I'm gonna make an audio only part of this podcast and upload to my Patreon. So make sure you check out my Patreon as well. That's my main Silk and Steel podcast, where not only I do cover the Chinese history and also the Chinese, also the Romance of Three Kingdoms, but I also tell about Chinese culture, geopolitics, the tech war, the China-U.S. Cold War, everything in between. So make sure you check that out. And once this is uploaded on YouTube, I'm gonna put the links in the description. And right now my main source of income is from my Patreon. So please support me so I can continue to bring you more content from Bali. And water margin, yeah, we'll get to the water margin later. Um, Present generation not familiar or interested in Chinese history. Yes, my last name is Za, but no, it's not Manchu name. I mean, Za could be a Manchu name because when Manchu the first when they start sintetize their name, sometimes they take they take the Han Chinese characters that match the sound of their name. Do you have a WeChat QR code for donation? Well, actually, I do. Maybe is there a way I put the WeChat QR code in the YouTube description? If I know how to do that, maybe somebody need to teach me how to embed it in the video. Um, so, what it is in is VM? What the hell? I don't understand that question. Yeah, no, Za is an ancient family. Oh, okay. Why do you pronounce Za instead of Zha? Okay, the H, the ZHA, the H in Mandarin pinyin system is supposed to denote a rolling of the tongue, but rolling of the tongue is a specifically very northern thing. You know, I am born in the South. I'm a child of the South. My family, the Za family, has been in the South for the last 1,000 years. You know, none of my family members ever pronounce our name with the rolling of their tongue. You know, none of them would say "ja," right? We just say "za" because we're Southerners. That's my name. I will say it the way. Why did not change it to "za" then? Well, it's the Chinese pinyin system is based on, like I said, based on Mandarin, right? And so based on standard Mandarin. So in standard Mandarin, it's pronounced "sha" with a rolling of the tongue. But that's not how I say it. That's not how my family say it. And none of my family have been saying that for the last 1,000 years. So I'm not going to change. Yeah. Yeah, I'm from the South. We don't roll our tongue in public. We only do it for special occasions or special someone. And any more questions? And also for the people who know, you know, the famous Chinese martial arts novelist Jin Yong, right? His real name is Zha Liangyong. He's from my family. We're all the same clan. We're all from Yuanhua Hailin. So my dad is born in Yuanhua Hailin, Zhejiang, right? Zhejiang Hailin Yuanhua, and our Zha family has lived there for 700 years, so way before the Manchus. So the Zha family have been around. You know, in in the official Chinese history annals, our ancestor was recorded like in the Southern Tang during the time of Southern Tang. So like well over 1,000 years ago. I talk about my family history on one of my podcast episode, but I think I will do it. I will restart again at some other time to talk about it from the time of the end of Tang Dynasty to the present. It's good. That's going to be a separate project. Did Confucius hold much popularity during Three Kingdoms? Yes, because during yes, I have a family book. Of course, we have our family book dates to the Yuan dynasty. That's when our family relocated from Jiangxi Wu, today's Jiangxi Wuyuan, to Yuanhua Hailin. Anyway, so what was the other question? Now I forgot the other question that was asked. Um, uh, uh, so there was a question about water margin. Yeah, well, that's a whole different story. The water margin is yes. I have my family name. I have my name in the family book. Me and my sister and my son. My wife is pregnant, so my son is gonna be the next edition of our family genealogy book too. And There was another question. I had a thought. I got interrupted. Now I forgot what the question was. Okay, just ask away. Ask your questions. You will put your answer, my song in the answer. Everybody, all the songs all the songs gets in the genealogy book. The genealogy book gets updated, every like 5-10 years or so. There. So Confucianism was made into a state ideology during the Western Han Dynasty, right? So that's before the Eastern Han Dynasty. So by the time of Three Kingdoms, the Confucianism has already been um, has already been a state ideology for almost 400 years. So yeah, so Confucianism was very important. And and a question about have I been back to my old family shrine? Yes, I. For my long-term followers who have been following my 2019 trip back to China, I show videos and pictures of my visit to the old family shrine. I went back to my father's family in Yuanhua, right? The Zha family have settled in Haining for last 700 years at the end of the Yuan dynasty. But before that, they came from Wuyuan. So Wuyuan used to be part of the ancient Huizhou, Huizhou, right? Now it's part of Jiangxi, but before it was part of Anhui, right? Anhui, the province, the Chinese province Anhui is two characters, An and Hui. An is for Anqing, and Hui is for Huizhou. And Huizhou is this region that the ancient region that now got split up between the province of Anhui and Jiangxi, and the part of my old family ancestral home in Wuyuan just got now it's part of Jiangxi. But anyway, but culturally it's the Huizhou is very distinct. For people who've been to Yellow Mountains, Huangshan, right? Huangshan is a very famous scenic route in scenic mountain in China. But in the Yellow Mountain area, that's where the Zha family originally came from. So they settled in Wuyuan during the either Song I think either Song dynasty or just before, and then and then during Yuan dynasty, the last day of Yuan dynasty, because southern China was basically a free for all civil war, and to escape the war, they moved. One of our Sa ancestors moved from Wuyuan to Yuanhua. That happened like 750 years ago, and yeah. Any more questions? Oh, there's a question about legalism versus Confucianism in the Three Kingdoms era. So, some scholars say that the Chinese history, the Chinese bureaucracy for the last couple thousand years, in its essence, is 外儒内法, which means it has a cloak of Confucianism, but inside the cloak, it's legalism. And I think a person that best exemplified 检查的查啦，检查的查，但是信誓独渣。Okay, anyway, so about Confucian, about legalism, my thought. Let me refresh my thought. Yes. So one of the important figure in the Romance of Three Kingdoms era is Zhuge Liang, right? Zhuge Kongmin. Zhuge Kongmin, he really exemplifies this, because a lot of the practice he put in was based on the principle of legalism, the way he rules the Shu kingdom. But he is also, present himself as a Confucian, right? So with a Confucianist clothing, but with the inner core legalism. I think that applies to a huge chunk of Chinese history, of the Chinese bureaucracy. Oh, 儒表法理, yeah. That the same thing, same thing. Okay, any more questions? Wait, is everybody here Chinese? Or we can just talk in Chinese? Yes, so and also yes, I do have a Sichuan accent because I grew up in Chongqing, right? That's where my mother would grew up, and that's where I was born. So I'm a son of Chongqing. Yeah, so yeah. What's Chongqing Zai's as? So yeah, of course I have a Sichuanese accent. Can you eat chili? Are you kidding me? I'm from Chongqing. What kind of question is that? Yes, thank you. I mean, I love history ever since I was little. So like the Empress Dowager Deng, right? The Deng Taihou. Deng Taihou read history book when she was 6. So that's around the time when I started reading history books too. And I have always been fascinated by Chinese history because there's a first of all there's a lot, and it's just fascinating. I find that I'm always learning because what I Balinese food is spicy. No, I mentioned it many times. I was born in Chongqing. I grew up in China in 1980. So I came to United States in 1990. That was what 30 years ago. Yeah. So I came to US when I was 13, almost 14. So that's why I retain my Chinese accent. I'm proud of it. You know, people say, "Oh, Carl, you have a strong Chinese accent." Well, I'm Chinese, so what do you expect? Could you do a piece on history of Long March or Deng Xiaoping leading the PLA in the Southwest? That will be in the future. My next big series plan is on the Korean War. So I wanted to do a Chinese Civil War series, um, starting with the Manchurian campaign, you know, 东北解放战争, right? And then I need to find my collaborator because there's a guy that I was supposed to work with, and also Xiang Yu. I'm gonna bring Xiang Yu back because he wanted to do a Korean War series, but from the Chinese perspective, right? 抗美援朝. So so we're gonna do that as soon as he has time because he's busy. He works in a restaurant and then he goes to school. So he's super busy, and yeah. So Xiang Yu definitely will be back. And but first we will do the Chinese hip hop episode in English. So we will do that first, and then we will do our Chinese do the Korean War series. Oh, the song really shifted. I just noticed by like the coloring, like I'm glowing. It's a weird coloring on my face because the song has really shifted. Now the light is really kind of weird. Okay.